Today I'm going to set up my new to me UNIMIG Viper MK2. I purchased it a few months ago, but I've only just sort of decided to pull it all out and set it all up. First port of call is going to be the regulator, which comes with the kit. I did notice that appears to be a bit discoloured there. Not sure if it's something that's actually on the surface or whether it's sort of a rust or a bit of corrosion, but we'll get a wire brush to that, a bit of a wire wheel to that, and we'll clean that up. Once we've done all that, we can then move over to the gas bottle which I picked up today, which is Argo Shield Universal. It's to be used with solid wire, which I'm going to run in this machine. So I'll get that cleaned up and we'll bring you back and we'll have a look at putting the regulator onto the bottle. So I've just hit that with the wire brush, and it appears as though it's just discoloration. It's not actually, I'll get the focus for you. It's not going to focus, unfortunately, but yeah, it's just a bit of discoloration. It's not actually anything on the surface, so that should be good to go. Basically fits up into there, actually goes inside the nut. Sits in there like so, then that screws on up onto that. But first of all, we'll put some thread tape on that, and on that thread, then we'll screw it together. Okay, so we've got our thread tape, Teflon tape, onto our threads. So we'll head over to the bottle. Puppy. Alright. In the top of the bottle we've got this dust cap. It keeps the threads inside nice and clean. Put that aside. And just this threads in clockwise, just as it's a bit hard to do it one-handed, but we'll give it a go. There we go. It's important to wrap the thread tape on in a clockwise fashion, looking at it, so that as you wind it, it doesn't try to unravel. There we go, that's just finger tight at the moment. As you'll notice, I've got a chain around my bottle. I tried to get one of those protective caps that go on and thread onto the top of the bottle, just for storage and things. As you can see, I've got another argon bottle sitting over here. Ideally I'd like to have one of those metal caps that screw on over the top of the valve, so that if it was to fall, rather than hit the deck and then take off like a rocket, that cap on the top will protect it. I asked the guy at BOC, but he said no, he said we don't have them, which I found a bit weird. Basically he said if you come across one, keep it. So yeah, unfortunately. So what I've done, just in case, is put a chain around it, and that holds it firmly in place, so if it gets knocked by the dogs or anything like that, it's not likely to fall over and become a bomb or a missile. So I won't put that other barb on yet. I won't put that on yet because it needs to be attached to the hose that's supplied in the kit. So I'll grab that and we'll have a look at that. This is the gas hose that they provide you with. Comes in the kit. Yep, designed for inert gas. It's got a 5mm hole in the end, so it's just a matter of put the hose clamp on first, then push the barb section into the hose until it's up snug, and then tighten up the clamp. That's the barb pushed all the way into the hose, so it's just a matter of doing up the clamp, and that part should be done. It's only an old clamp that I'm using at the moment. I'll use a bit ordinary, but it'll do the job. I may come back and put some new stainless steel ones on, but I'll just for the sake of a test, I'll run with that and just see how it goes. Check it for leaks later on. Okay, well that's all plugged in, wound up. So we'll just snug these down now. They don't have to be super tight because there's a rubber seal that you don't want to damage or squash. So just enough pressure to get everything seated, and there we go, that should be fine. Okay, so that's our argon, or our regulator for our Argo shield installed. Move on to the next bit. Okay, so I've got the machine up on the bench. It's basically a bit of a look at the front controls. We've got our amperage knob on the left there for stick welding, arc welding. We've got a voltage for our MIG. We've also got our wire speed, and we have our switch to move between the two, either stick welding or MIG welding. Down on the front, we've got a standard DINS connections. Under that cap is where you would plug in the optional spool gun. This machine is also compatible with the spool gun. Around the back of the machine, pre-installed is the gas inlet, so that will obviously connect to the hose that we've just installed on our regulator, on our Argo shield bottle. So that hose, the other end of that, will connect to that gas in. As I say, this is brand new out of the box. I've had it for quite some time, but this is my first time getting around to getting it all set up, so I thought I'll take you along with me. We can learn together. Coming around this side, we've got a nice opening door. Now it comes with some pretty good instruction there on the various settings and various things. So you can sort of have a bit of a look there. It sort of gives you some suggestions. Various metal thicknesses and various voltages that you can set it to. Once again, these are just a guides, sort of, I guess, to get you in the ballpark, but we'll have a closer look at that later. All the different drive rollers it comes with. This is the drive unit here, which runs your wire up through the gun. It's really good, well built aluminium, which is good. Some of the cheap, I mean, this isn't the most expensive machine by any means, but some of the cheaper machines, this housing is sort of a well, it's a resin type plastic sometimes, and they can be prone to a bit of breakage. Whereas this, this really appears to be in, a really solid construction. Comes with the drive roller already installed. You can access that. Taking the, there we go, and that slides off. It's held on a little keyway. This is what's called a V-groove roller. That's used for running solid wire, as opposed to flux core, which would use the a grooved or a knurled roller. The wire that is provided with the machine is the 0.8 millimeter. That's showing that's on the inside, so this wire feeder feeds on the inside. So we'll put our 0.8 towards the middle, lining up our spline. Once again, difficult to do one-handed, but we'll get there. There we go. So that's with our V-groove roller, 0.8 millimeter, directly in line with where the wire feeds in there. We'll secure that by screwing in our cap. There we go. Now that doesn't have to be overly tight, just firm, and that'll hold that together there. Also comes with an extra one, which is cable tied to the machine, so we'll take that off and we'll put that in the little bag of spares. It comes with various different rollers. As I say, it comes with the groove roller for the flux core, which is that one there. You can see the little teeth there, that grips the wire. That's for your flux core, and the size is 0.9, yeah, 0.9, 0.8 there. That's a V-groove roller. Yeah, they're each one's marked to tell you what it is. So that's our roller set up. So we'll nip that one off and we'll move on to the next bit. Also comes from the factory with a bit of desiccant in there. I tend to leave that in there, and if you have any, that come in a bit of, maybe some furniture or TVs and various other electronics, if you have some of them left over in your packaging from whatever it is, keep them and drop them in the bottom of your machine. It helps to keep moisture away from your wire, and it will help your wire to last a little longer. Another tip you can do as well, which I will do, is use a piece of foam, an old earplug, or preferably a new earplug. Pierce your wire through the middle of the earplug and have that right at the end there where it feeds into that wire tube there. So basically the wire has to pass through that earplug, then on in through the wire feeder, and then out to your gun. And that also helps to clean the wire as it comes off the spool, helps to clean it as it heads in through your wire and up through your gun. This is the wire, solid mild steel MIG wire that comes supplied in the kit. So that's its information there. 5 kilo spool, 0.8 millimeters, so that will coincide with our 0.8 millimeter V-groove roller. And that mounts onto the spool holder here. So basically you take off this large plastic nut and your spool will go on there. Now these spools, like most, feed from the bottom of the spool, so you need to sort of make sure that as your wire comes off the roll, so I can find there we go, so that's the tail of our wire there. There's the tail of it there. So therefore our spool will go on that way, feeding from the bottom, and that'll then pass through an earplug, one of them, straight through the middle of that, then on through into there, then into the feeder. You release that lever, lift it up. This lever allows you to adjust tension on your wire, depending on the thickness and the size roller you're using. Once again, that's a bit of a trial and error thing. You want it firm so it doesn't sort of, you know, doesn't cause the wire to slip, but you don't want it so tight that it's almost crushing it as it heads through. You sort of want a fairly, you know, happy medium there. So it goes in through your earplug, through that tube there, goes across the groove of your roller and into that tube there, which then continues through and comes out of your connection there for your MIG gun. To feed the wire through, that red button in the middle there, that's a feed button. Basically you can feed wire through using that button as opposed to squeezing the trigger, which when the machine's obviously hooked up to gas, as every time you squeeze that trigger you're releasing gas. This way you can run the spool, run the wire through without wasting any gas as you go. So yeah, we'll move on to the next part. Okay, that's our spool of wire installed. As you can see, it feeds off the bottom of the spool up through the earplug, in through the liner into the V-groove roller, 0.8 V-groove roller, and then on to this coupler here. Now, it's not quite coming through that end at the moment because our next step is to unpack and plug in our MIG gun. This is 3 meters in length. Once again, comes in the kit. That's what they call it there, the Pro Line Light torch package, 3 meter, brass nut, red handle. So there's our end there, and that end plugs into our socket there, and that nut on the outside of it will secure it to the machine. So let's get that bit done. There's our MIG gun unwrapped. There's our end. It goes into our socket. Once again, try and do this one-handed to line up with its positions. Where are we? There we go. It goes to there, that one goes to there. Okay, tighten up the collar. Okay, that's our MIG gun connected. Just had to give it a little bit of an extra twist there to, once again, doing it one-handed. Makes it awfully difficult. I'm filming on my phone, my other camera's not working at the moment, which I'm trying to fix. Okay, so that's our gun. What we have to do is take off the tip. Okay, so that's our nozzle. Take the nozzle off. Before we run our wire through, we need to take out our tip, which is that copper looking piece on the end there. We also need to check that is compatible with the 0.8 wire that we've put in the machine. So rather than try and do that one-handed, I'll get that out and we'll have a look. Okay, this comes with the kit also. It's basically Binzel style 15 spare parts. So inside we've got a pair of welpers or welder's pliers. They've got various functions, taking out tips and cleaning out nozzles and snipping your wire and various things. And it also comes with a pile of spare tips of varying sizes. That's a tip holder that goes in the end of the gun, and a couple of spare nozzles as well. So that's pretty cool. So we'll have a rummage through there and I'll see if I can find a 0.8, and we'll get that ready to put on our gun when we go to run the wire through. So I've removed our tip. Turns out it is a 0.8, so it comes out of the factory, or come to me from the factory with a 0.8 tip. So we've taken that out to allow that wire to travel through the wire feeder and into our gun. What I'll do first is I'll extend this out, so we've got a straight run, 3 metres in length, so we'll have to run it across the workshop a bit, drop it over the old dirt bike. There we go. Okay, so the roller's in. We haven't played with the tension or anything yet, so what we'll do is we'll reach around the back and we'll fire it up. There she goes. Alright, green power light on. I'll have to read the book to find out what the other, obviously the one on the right there with the temperature, that's the thermal overload, so once the machine gets to a certain operating temperature or certain temperature internally, if it's too hot it'll shut it off. It sounds as though, it's the first time I've fired it up, it sounds as though it's got a fairly substantial fan in there, so I dare say the duty cycle is quite good. I must have a look in the book, see what the duty cycle is. I think from memory it was quite good for what it is. Okay, so by rights, if we push our wire feed button, which is there, alright, wire is feeding, pressing rollers into our gun. We'll stop there, see if it's coming out the other end. It's a bit hard to be in two places at once. What do we got? Nope, not yet. Let's go a little more. Let's have a look at that. Oh yeah, we've got wire. There's our wire there. We've got a bit, so we'll try and rewind that back into the spool. That's good, that went through nice and easy. Okay, so take our tension off our roller and manually, which we're going to have to, basically what we can do is we can turn the spool in the opposite direction and basically rewind that back on. It's awfully difficult for me to do that with one hand because of our earplug that's in the line there, so I'll do that off camera and I'll bring you back once we're ready to put the gun back together. Okay, I've wound that back as I described. It's just wound it all back onto the spool. There's no point cutting it off and wasting that wire. The earplug's still in place to give it a bit of a polish on its way through. So we'll probably drop our tension in now. That seemed to feed through quite well, so I'm not actually going to adjust that, the tension on that. I'm going to just leave it as it is for now, and we'll see how it feeds as we weld. So basically now what we have to do is put our tip back on. Just goes through there like so, and just screws into there. Screws into the end of our gun. Okay, what's happening here? It is that's winding up in there, so take that back off. Let's see if we can see through our. Oh yeah, we've got a hole. Okay. Put it on backwards just to make sure that. Okay, the end of our wire has got a little burr on it, which catching on the inside of the tip. Alright, I'll clean that up a little bit. Okay, there's our wire running through the tip, and what was actually happening was the end of the tip was getting caught on the end of the liner that runs through the gun and obviously down through. There's a must be a bit of a burr on the end of the metal liner that's in the tip of the gun there. As I was rotating it, it was catching. You could feel it catching on the. It's basically like a spring, very much the same as that one there. That's identical to what's in the end of the gun there. Yeah, it's obviously got a bit of a burr on it and was catching on our tip as we tried to screw it in. So we've fixed all that up now. All we have to do is put our nozzle back on. That just fits down over the spring, like so. Okay, there we have it. There's our gun all assembled, all put together. Our wire's been run. So far so good. Alright, it's getting a bit late now, so this might be part one. I'll bring you back obviously for part two, when we plug in our gas, do our first weld with the brand new UNIMIG Viper 182 Mark II.